Well, hello to you on this Friday morning. I am Dr. Sheri Keffer, and I have a ton of information for you today. I'm doing a two-part series, and some of you may have heard me just a couple days ago talk about deception. And I said deception, discovery, and disclosure are bookends to how we get the truth. And I thought, all right, it's too much information to just bring in one presentation. So I thought, let me break it up into two parts and bring it to you all. Know that this information, again, whenever we're talking about deception and I'm sharing stories, it does rumble the stuff in our hearts that are already going on. So kindly just take care of yourself. If you need to step away, do it. If you need to go outside or get a drink of water or, just breathe, do that because I want to make sure you're taking care of you. Today's talk is called Sexual Betrayal, How to Get the Truth Out of a Liar. Again, I'm Dr. Sheri Keffer, and 2 days ago, I did Sexual Betrayal. What you don't know can hurt you. And so let me just say hello to those of you that were there. I have been working as steadily as I can to connect with you guys, to answer questions that you have through Instagram, Facebook, emails, and I appreciate just all the conversations. So many of you have been saying it's helping. And one woman said on Wednesday, she said, I had to listen to it twice. She said there was so much information. It was like drinking out of a fire hose. And I go, I get it. There's a lot. Some of you may be here for the first time. Some of you may have just gotten my book, Intimate Deception, Healing the Wounds of Sexual Betrayal. The information I'm bringing today is actually out of chapter 17, which I labeled To Tell the Truth. I think the truth is really, really important. And I've been working as a doctor of marriage and family therapy for over 22 years. I'm also a certified partner trauma therapist, and I'm a supervisor, which means I have the privilege, honor, and responsibility of teaching other therapists and coaches and counselors and clergy about what we need to best heal. I'm also a certified sex addiction therapist. And what does that mean? Well, that means I work with those who compulsively sexually act out, those that have porn addiction, serial cheaters, sex addicts, just all kinds of stuff. So I understand both sides. I do have a free download today, and it's a good one. This free download, I promise you, will help you save time, money, and unneeded stress and duress around the topic today, which is therapeutic full disclosures. So I want you to get some information about what it looks like when it's done well. So if you stay to the end, you can get that free resource for you. And if you're watching me on YouTube, you can get that as well. I'll be giving you the information on how to get it. Remember that this is a public format. So I'm going to be answering questions at the end, and I'll just use your first name. If you would prefer to private message me, just do it. Private message me on Facebook, and my staff will get your question. I'm going to try to get to as many as I can. Wednesday, we just had such thoughtful, good questions. And I love that with information, as you all have been following me and listening to me for the last couple of weeks, few weeks, you guys have been, I can just tell the questions are changing because knowledge is power, and you're starting to get some of this stuff. Again, I'm going to be talking about how to get the truth from a liar. And some of you may have noticed I am wearing my hat that says trust but verify. I know I'm going to be explaining this in a minute, but I just, again, I can't talk about this stuff without talking about this stuff. So just care for your heart today. And I just want to say a really special thank you to those of you that are telling your small groups. Some of you are at small groups at churches, some of you at small recovery groups with betrayed partners, and you're telling your friends there, hey, there's this gal, her name is Dr. Sheri. She's talking about all this, and she's got free resources, and people have been coming, and I love that. Now, some of you just this week on Monday got my invitation for my free workshop that I'm doing. It's called Sexual Betrayal. You have the right to say enough is enough. I know it's true. And we often don't know what we need to do to draw that line in the sand or to get the help and support we need to stop what's going on and say enough's enough. But it's going to be a special event. It's not going to be on Facebook or YouTube. I'm going to be sharing some things with you that you won't hear in any of my talks or any place else out there. And it really comes out of my heart for you and the thousands of conversations that I've had with us betrayed partners, as well as my own story. But I think it comes out of what we need, um, what we really need. And I know I've created a path that can help you stop the sexual betrayal that's happening in your relationship. Now, you might say, how can you say that? Well, because I've seen changes in a whole lot of relationships that when not women get the information they need and the support, they start sticking a spoke in that wheel of deception and things start changing. Now, if you don't know what to do, there's a ton of gaps. There's pitfalls. You get stuck in what doesn't work. And then we just get hurt again and again. And I hate to see the time that's wasted, the money that's wasted, the crazy making, the harm that comes from sexual deception. And I'm sad, really sad that some of us don't get the right counsel that helps us to get where we need to go. And that just kills me. So I want to help provide the right information and direction so you can actually get some traction. I mean, think about it. I know when all this happens, the first place we may go is a marriage counselor or a pastor, clergy or priest. And what happens is they start looking at it as a marriage issue. But it's not a marriage issue. It's a sexual integrity, a porn addiction, a sex addiction, serial cheating. It's an integrity disorder issue. It's not about the marriage. And so lots of couples spend time there and don't actually get to the heart of the matter. So I'm going to be unveiling the heart of the matter. I'm going to be talking about what I believe is the gold standard that every single betrayed partner needs in order to have a good recovery path. And that path that I'm going to be bringing is going to be talked about just during that talk only. So you've got to have a special link to get in. All you need to do is go to braveone.com/join workshop. So it's BRAVEONE.com/JOINWORKSHOP. And that's for you that are hearing me right now. That's for you that are on YouTube, that are watching me on my YouTube channel at Dr. Sheri Keffer. Now, once you get your VIP pass, you get into the private workshop, and then I'll send you an email saying, hey, you're in, right? And you'll get the special link and then a gift from me just for signing up to get into it. But it's going to be on Wednesday, October 5th. It's not very far away. I know it's like whatever, 10 days away, maybe even less than that. Math was never my greatest subject, but it's coming around the corner. So I want you to save the date. I'm going to be doing it twice that day, 12 noon and 7 p.m. So you can come once, you can come both times. It's called Sexual Betrayal. You have the right to say enough is enough. Now, let's do this. Let's transition into today's talk, which is sexual betrayal, how to get the truth from a liar. This year, February 22nd, I won't forget the date because I was watching TV. And on the TV, I saw something that shocked me. It said Putin orders Russian forces to perform peacekeeping functions in eastern Ukraine's breakaway regions. I was like, Putin? Peacekeeping? What are you talking about? What is going on? And from the first time I heard it, something inside in my gut didn't feel right. I even thought, Putin and peacekeeping, what do those two things have in common? The history shows they have nothing in common. And then what happened is I began to watch, just like you guys, we all watched day after day the devastation that started happening as Putin gaslit Ukraine and the whole world. And he began to bully, abuse, kill innocent people. And the goal is to take over Ukraine. Now, it's still happening right now. But why it was so disturbing to me is because he used the word peacekeeping. And I thought, no, he's lying. That is not true. I was at a restaurant and I happened to look over. I was with a group of friends, and there was a man wearing a hat at the restaurant that looked just like this. It said, trust and verify. I went, trust and verify? What does that mean? And I wanted to learn more about what it meant. So I got up for my friends and I started walking to go over to talk to the guy. And my husband like got my hand and he goes, where are you going? And I go, that guy has a hat that says trust and verify. He goes, hold on, hold on. He did what most smart people do. He decided to Google it and he actually bought me the hat. So I did some thinking. I did a deeper dive. And where does this phrase come from? Trust but verify. It comes from a Russian phrase that's doviai no proviai. What does that mean? It means trust but verify. President Reagan adopted this Russian proverb, and it actually became kind of a signature phrase for him. He used it a lot. And when he was using it when he was discussing US relations with the Soviet Union. And so, actually, at the signing of the INF treaty that was signed in December of 1987, General Secretary Gorbachev responded, you repeat that every meeting. And when he said that, the whole audience laughed. And to this, Reagan chuckled and said, well, I like it, and I love that because I like it too. So much so that I bought the hat, right? What does it mean to trust but verify? Since I started doing my Facebook talks with you all, there's been a ton of questions about not only discovery, which was 2 days ago, but the truth telling process, which is called disclosure. Now, I talked about the difference between discovery and disclosure. Discovery is what you find, and disclosure is what you're told. Guess what? It's been the wild, wild west when it comes to disclosures. It's painful enough to listen to the sexual betrayals that your husband or significant other has hidden from you. But the way that they share that information with you can be more damaging if it's not handled with care. Many couples are given poor advice or actually no direction at all. Even I've seen 20 years of betrayal and sexual deception. It can be divulged and told in 15 minutes over pancakes at IHOP. Horrible, horrible stories, which basically leave you and I shell-shocked, confused, and loaded with unwanted images and intricate details of what they've done in our mind. These mishandled admissions are more common than I even want to tell you. They can be incomplete. They can be horribly timed. They can be fake disclosures, hiding the real truth. I've seen it all. They can even be one-sided surprises that catch you off guard. I had someone tell me that their significant other disclosed what was going on while they were driving in the car on a freeway. I mean, what are you supposed to do with that? There's no place to go. Here's some of the things that can be really harmful. A couple was told by their pastor to go to a garbage dump where he was to share all his sexual secrets with his wife. Well, guess what? She didn't have a counselor. She had no support group, and she became suicidal after she heard everything. And that's when I got the call. Then another wife's husband handed her his disclosure. It was 16 pages, handwritten, back and front of lined paper. She saw notes about women he'd been with, where he'd been at, detailed sex acts and body types, and just all kinds of stuff. She was absolutely devastated. And she started looking at every detail. I mean, think about it. I think most of us may have done the same thing, right? She's painstakingly reading through it, page after page, trying to figure out what has happened, what's going on, and what she is or isn't based on everything she's going over. And she told me, she said, I wasn't able to get those images out of my mind. When her husband continued to lie, she had heard some stuff because I had been talking and sharing some stuff, and she asked for her husband to do a polygraph. They went all the way up to the polygraph, and guess what happened? Her husband revealed a piece of information that wasn't on the 16 pages. Do you know what he told her? It was the worst of all worst. He told his wife that the disclosure was completely made up. I know. He wanted to cover up the act he'd really done. And I should say acts, there was multiple acts, but one that he knew would really devastate her was he had sex with one of her closest friends. Shocking. So I'm going to go through today 5 types of disclosures. The first kind is called disclosure dumps. The second kind is trickled disclosures. Trickled disclosures are trickled truth, deception shared bit by bit. The third type is called DIY, do it yourself disclosures. The fourth type is give it my best shot disclosures, when we don't know what we know. And then the fifth type are therapeutic full disclosures. So let me go through each one of them and just kind of explain them so that you know what the wild, wild west looks like. This is what you don't want to do. So disclosure dumps, number 1, is where the betraying party decides to share with their spouse or significant other in order to get it off their chest. But it doesn't matter how we are. It doesn't matter if we have support. They've been told many times that they need to tell us, right? They've gone to a seminar, maybe a weekend workshop, maybe something they read on Facebook. Maybe there's some misguided helping professional that told them that. And we, as the spouse or significant other, can be sorely unprepared and unsupported at that time. And it can cause panic. Many of us can end up in the emergency room. We even, like the gal I told you about, had suicidal ideations. Not being directed to a professional who is licensed and specifically certified in therapeutic full disclosures is a problem. So the betraying party doesn't know what to do when we're bleeding out emotionally. And it causes us harm, and they're freaking out, not knowing what to do. Now, disclosure dumps really are partial disclosures, only what they believe you can handle. So something to think about. Number 2 type is trickle disclosures. Now, this is when somebody shares bit by bit. The betraying party chooses to share a piece of the story, leaving out important information. The betraying party also might just share information they believe is in your best interest, what they think you can handle. And it's almost like they do it and it's a litmus test, like how much can I share and still kind of have them stay with me and hold things together. And they actually tell themselves, well, it's protecting you from the pain. They believe that it's protecting us from the pain, right? Just those bit by bits, protecting us from the pain of knowing. But the problem is they hold power for what they're not sharing. There's big secrets. You're hurting. There's things you don't know about, but they have the power of holding the secret. Now we know something's wrong, and maybe even kids blame us because we're short or irritable or edgy, or we found part of the discovery and yet we don't know if there's more or not. But keeping secrets actually withholds the power from us. it doesn't give us a choice in what's been secretly going on in our committed covenantal relationship. We don't have choices when lying and hiding is in the mix, right? There isn't consent. We don't have choice when somebody's holding secrets about sexually acting out right under our nose. Now, honestly, the only person it really protects most often is the betraying party. So it's important for us, the betrayed partner, to have as much choice in the decision making about the therapeutic full disclosure as possible, right? And that whole disclosure process, it's important that we get information, that we make choices, like who's going to do it, right? And are they credentialed? Are they trained? It's like trying to pick a surgeon. You don't want to cut corners here. And whether you're going to use a polygraph or not, even whether the therapeutic full disclosure is going to happen or not. I mean, if you're a partner who's been betrayed and you feel like you have enough information and you feel fine not to do a therapeutic full disclosure, that's your choice, right? Not not a problem. You get to decide. Yet what I often see are partners who haven't done it and they live kind of walking on pins and needles, wondering for months and even years if they're safe, if they're out of the woods, if they really, that betrayed party really has stopped because they don't know. And they live in this chronic fear of what is true or not. And it can even cause these discoveries. We talked about this briefly on Wednesday, I did, but it can even cause betrayal, trauma induced control. So we feel out of control. So we start controlling because of the disclosures and not knowing if that person is safe or if you're out of the woods yet. The third type of disclosure is a DIY. It's a do-it-yourself disclosure. So this is when it's so common, right? There's everything's at our fingertips. You go get a book, you read a workbook, you watch a video, you might even watch this video and go, okay, I think I know enough. I'm going to get a book. And then the couple chooses to disclose on their own without support. Now, I want you to imagine for a moment, the one who's betraying is actually going to be doing their own heart surgery. Okay, so give me a second here. Move it from telling you what they've done to a medical picture where they're just going to take a knife and they're going to do their own heart surgery. Now, if you had to talk about how unfaithful you've been, come forward with these sexual acts and secrets, how deep would you cut? Right? I mean, that's crazy to think that you're going to cut in, So with sexual deception, it's the same. Most often, they're avoiding the pain for themselves, and they tell themselves they're avoiding the pain for you too. Now, as a couple might try to do it yourself, they may not be adequately supported. They may not have the right support bases. They might not have good places where they're being accountable for the acting out, where they're working on their sobriety. And so the couple just gets so discouraged and burn out. And they're like, now what? Things aren't changing. We did it. We used this book, but so something to think about again. The fourth time is give it my best shot disclosure. Now, this is when a well-meaning counselor who has not been trained in doing a full therapeutic disclosure, right? Like, let me give you an example. These are real examples. There was a therapist that had been working with a couple for 2.5 years. And the partner reached out to me and said, hey, I just wanted to find out. I heard about you. I read your book. We've been working with a therapist for about 2.5 years. And my therapist is telling me that we need to wait till he's through step 4 in his sex addiction recovery group. And what step 4 is to make a searching and fearless moral inventory of the hurt that you've done, of ourselves and the hurt that we've done to others. Like step 4 is a big step. But this therapist was like, well, let's wait until he gets through that. Not thinking about all the trauma, all the acting out that may still be going on, right? And so she's here living with symptoms of post-traumatic stress, and she's having to sit on a ticking time bomb and wait. Another situation, are a counselor who says they specialize in sex addiction, but they've not invested the money, the time on the current education. They're not up on the latest stuff. I mean, it takes time and money to invest in getting this kind of training. It's like a specialty in the area of counseling, or it's a specialty in pastoral care, right? So they're not certified in sex addiction, or they're not certified in therapeutic full disclosures. And they give it their best shot, but it's often not the best. I've seen situations where there is an analyst or a psychologist that's practicing out of scope. They're working with somebody who clearly has a sex addiction. They're seeing them multiple times a week. I've seen it where they're seeing them 3, 4, 5 times a week. There's no sex addiction group. There's no recovery plan. They don't know about something called a circle plan. They don't know. They don't know about the disclosures. So they can spend months and years trying to support that person when that person is not getting the best help that is out there right now, right? That therapeutic full disclosure in and of itself is, by its own nature, is complex, and there's important steps that need to be done along the way. And so it makes sense, right, that it would be handled with people, professionals that are adequately trained and know how to walk the couple through the steps. It's clear, it's structured, and it provides support for both parties. Going through this process is taking action steps, but in order to help the couple restore that sexual breach of trust that's happened. It's actually an honest transfer of information. And that honest transfer of information has 3 things that it's doing for the relationship and for us, the betrayed partner. It's bringing, 1, awareness. It's helping that relationship and that one who's betrayed, number 2, come clean. And the third thing, it focuses on bringing the truth. So let's go into awareness. What is that? The wife or significant other is given information about their husband's sexual behaviors that have been hidden through lies and deceit. Coming clean, what's that? Well, the betraying party, either the husband or significant other, has the opportunity to get out from underneath the burden of secrets, lies, shame with the one that they've actually betrayed. It's bringing their spouse or significant other into a place where they're able to understand the full nature of their sexual acting out behaviors and how they've actually broken trust with you. It's not a time for them to withhold deceptions. It's not a time for them to lie. And withhold ones that they think are too painful for them to bring to you. And the third thing, truth. So what is that? I know we hear this word, truth. What is it? Well, but how do you do that? Truth in bringing the couple what's gone on. And actually what happens is that couple then has the best chance of knowing what's gone on, and they can rebuild the relationship on a foundation of truth and restored trust. So there's some folks that did some research. I want to share this with you. When you think about what a disclosure is like for both people, let me first kind of put my shoes on the one who's betrayed and then the one who's been betrayed. So let me first talk about, for the one who's betrayed, a full disclosure is tough. He's walled himself off from others, right? Doesn't have any close guy friends. And these hidden sex acts have compromised his life and his integrity and his relationship with you. He's just beginning to face himself. And so to do so, he's had to address some issues. He's had to take a good look at what he's done, how he's hurt us, how he's hurt your kids, whether they're young or adult children. And many of them, when they're having to face themselves and what they've done, they, because of all the shame and hiding and lying, they've not been able to be close to you. Now, I have situations where the betrayed partner is like, he was as close to me as puppy breath. We were like best friends. And the fact that he's been acting out with other people and my best friend is really rocking my world. So let me just say, it happens across all types of connections. But sometimes those that act out have intimacy issues, fears of intimacy, fears of closeness, fears of you seeing them rooted in their past, right? And they're scared out of their mind because there's a lot at stake. So they don't want to think about the consequences. And even, I mean, we're not talking little consequences, big, huge, grave consequences or outcomes when they are thinking about telling you. They don't think about that stuff when they're acting out. They're not thinking about the consequences of how it's going to blow up your world. And how do I know that? Because I asked Connor. When Connor hired a prostitute, he did it multiple times, but the first time he did it, I asked him, I said, where did you put me? Where did I go? When you hired the prostitute and acted out with her, did you think about me? Did you think about us? It's like he put me in a shoebox on a very high shelf and he acted out. And that was shocking to me. I just have no awareness of how that even happens, right? But it does. And that's what keeps them in denial, defending, lying, blaming, and this out of control behavior for so long, right? And basically, he's been trying to save himself by himself. It's not working. And he's been using sex acts of many kinds in order to numb out their feelings. Little does he know that that acting out has only buried him deeper into shame. And with more shame comes more acting out, right? It compromises their integrity and it confirms what they already believe to be true. They believe I'm a horrible person, I'm a fraud, I'm a monster. If anyone knew what I've been doing, it would be over. And then even I've had some of them say, I never thought when I started acting out there that I'd get to the place where I'm at today. Like they shock themselves with how far they can get. It's like they get suffocated in tightly wrapped cellophane, and shame does that. They don't sleep well. They don't breathe in peace. And it takes a lot of courage for them to bring their secret sexual life and the sexual acting out forward and expose the truth, right? Of things they've been doing for a long, long time. They know that everything, their world, friends, kids, you can go away, right? After he discloses. And, and up until then, he's been building this house of cards, right? It's the only house that they've been building. It's based on lies. And so, of course, they fear rejection, abandonment, people putting more shame on them and over what they've done. So if you have questions, I know I'm bringing a lot of information, just put it in the chat, or if you want to private message me, feel free to do that, or even put anonymous down if you want. I can see that there are questions coming in already. I want to get to as many as I can, but I know some of this material may be triggering to you, and I just want to make sure that you're taking care of your heart. Now, let's go back to us, the betrayed. Like, what does a therapeutic disclosure mean to you? Like, it's your greatest fear. It's that anticipation. It's the wondering of what we don't know. And no matter what comes into the light, something in us dies because he isn't the person that you thought he was, right? And you never imagined that he'd do this or that. It's heartache beyond belief. And it just punctures our hearts. So that full disclosure ushers in for us rejection, pain, shock, hurt, loss, feeling numb. And we start questioning all the things that we know, everything that's gone before, the relationship we've been at. We wonder what in the heck is true. Was he texting the other woman, right, that I saw him flirting with at our son's soccer game? Does he really love me? Right? Or is he just telling me that? Does he love another woman? Right? Has he sent her flowers? Has he told her he loved her? Has he had sex with someone outside of our marriage? Some of you have discovered they've had sex with men, undisclosed sex with the same sex, right? Shocking. You're wondering if your kid's safety has been compromised. Like, who is he? And our mind races with things that are called into question. We're terrified. We're confused. We're panicked about what we're going to do with the finances. We feel trapped, kind of in this dark hole without straight answers. Some of us even worry that we might find out we have an STD, and some of us have already gotten one. We wonder if what we'll see in the full disclosure is going to be our worst nightmare. And so we go back and forth. Do I really want to know? Do I really want to do this? So you might be listening to me right now going, okay, Sheri, why would anyone want to do a therapeutic full disclosure? Here's the research that I want to tell you about. So there were some therapists, Dr. Schneider, Corley, and some others that did an analysis. They did research looking at the risks and benefits of a disclosure in their research study. And I'm grateful that they did it because they actually asked couples two questions, right? They wanted to know how they felt about the therapeutic full disclosure before and after the event. Okay, so sex addicts and their wives were asked these two things. The first question was initially, how did you feel at the time about the disclosure? And this was right before they did one. And the second question was, after they'd had the disclosure, looking back now at the disclosure, how do you feel about it now? What they found was striking. So for the sex addicts, they said 58% of them said that the therapeutic disclosure was the right course of action before the event. Okay. They weren't so much looking forward to it. And shocking, 96% of the sex addicts said it was the right thing to do after they did it. Now, for the wives, 81% of them said they believed that the therapeutic full disclosure was the right thing to do before the event. After they had had the therapeutic full disclosure, 93% of the same women said they felt like it was the right course of action to do it. So both the husbands, 96%, and the wives, 93%, felt like it was in their best interest to go through this process. What that says is when it's done well, when it's done right, when both parties are supported through the process by professionals that regularly do this and have been trained to do it and get it, they can come through it and come through it well. Let me go over just some risks. Risks of a disclosure is there might be increased shame and guilt. There might be some temporary separations, maybe even a divorce. There might be financial, legal, or professional consequences. There might be some changes around family functions, like including maybe limited time to kids. And there could be a loss of trust, right? The relationship may end up getting worse before it actually gets better. The benefits is restored truth, confrontation of the deception. It flies right into the face of that. a hope for a future on a relationship that's actually honest. That betraying spouse is able to get free from the secrets and the shame and the stuff that's been hidden from them. And that betrayed spouse is empowered to make informed choices about their future, about what they want to do. Now, I'm going to quickly just touch on a polygraph here for a few minutes. So, I have a lot of people ask, do you want a polygraph before going through your full disclosure? And you get to decide that too. Now, there's two different types of polygraph examiners. One is a criminal examiner versus a therapeutic or fidelity examiner. You want the therapeutic or fidelity examiner. And finding someone who is a good fidelity examiner usually is connected to the person that does these therapeutic full disclosures, but it's that fidelity examiner is familiar with the disclosure process, especially when it comes to sexual acting out. And they're not trying to shame or catch that person. They are basically respectfully assisting your husband or significant other to enter into a truth-telling process through the polygraph. I want to share a quote that I just couldn't have said this better, and I love Dr. Milton Magnus. When discussing polygraphs at a conference, Dr. Milton Magnus, and I talk about this quote's actually in my book. This is what he said, and I asked him, "Can I quote it? Can I put you in my book?" Because it was so clear. He said this: "Because of the core belief of sex addicts that people will not love me as I am, I believe it's virtually impossible to get a complete disclosure without a polygraph exam to verify that the disclosure is not just a sanitized version of what the sex addict hopes his partner will forgive. Unless the whole truth is told, the sex addict doesn't have the opportunity of getting free from their behaviors. And unless the addict can get honest with their partner, they don't have the opportunity of ever restoring trust in the relationship." Doesn't that make sense? A friend of mine who works in burn victims, she does something called debridement. And one night we were at dinner and she was telling me, after dinner, of course, what it looks like to go in and to have to, take out some of the healthy flesh, the healthy skin, the healthy, stuff around that burn in order to make the best chance of that skin to heal. So she has to tell her clients and patients that it's going to get worse. Well, I was like, that sounds just like what I do. Sometimes that wound that needs to be cleaned out and the lies cause things to look worse at the beginning. But there is a path towards healing, and getting secrets out, lies out is a part of that. So if your significant other or husband is lying, blaming, minimizing, defending, or justifying, or feels entitled to cover up the lies, that full disclosure can be inaccurate, it can be unhelpful, and it can actually hurt us more, right? And I don't want you to be more hurt, right? Their heart has to be in the right place. And if it isn't in the right place, then there's some things that need to happen in order for them to face that, right? They won't be open to looking at the lies and bringing them forward. But what happens, and I know that's not what you want to hear, but let me say this: what has happened in the past is it would take extensive months and years for this to happen. It doesn't have to do that anymore. There's new training, there's new methods that are being used that help the couple get into that a lot earlier than they used to in the past. And in the best case scenarios, it's when a husband or a significant other is sad and grieved about what they've done and they want to repair. They're frightened to bring things forward, but they're ready to do what they need to do to restore their relationship with you. Like, they're ready to be honest. That humility and willingness are good, necessary components to honesty. And the objective is an honest disclosure. So can you see why it's important to choose your surgeon and know who you want to work with, and why it's important to have support for yourself why you're going through this process, because the therapeutic full disclosure in and of itself is a trauma event. And couples can get behind this. If you want to learn more, just go to my book, Chapter 17, to tell the truth. And then I have that free download that I want to tell you about. And it's really recommendations for a partner sensitive therapeutic full disclosure. If you're interested in that, I want you to have that resource. So you just have to go to braveone.com/disclosure. It's BRAVEONE, braveone.com/, and then the word disclosure, DISCLOSURE. And again, if you're seeing it on YouTube, you can get it as well. So take care of yourself, invest in this part of the process. It's worth every penny. Pick your person and be kind to yourself as you're learning things along the way. Now, I would love you to join me at my workshop I'm doing. If you are benefiting from what I'm telling you now, I have a lot more that I want to bring forward to you. My workshop, Sexual Betrayal, You Have the Right to Say Enough is Enough, is coming up very soon. It's October 5th. It's a special event. It's not going to be on Facebook. It's not going to be on YouTube. And it's different from anything else that I've talked about. And I want you to have the goods, right? And it comes out of my work with lots and lots of conversations with hundreds and thousands of partners like myself, and finding out what we really need, what really works to stop all the crazy making and to get that relationship on a much better path. Want to keep you out of being stuck and spending money you don't need to waste, right? And, getting the right direction and right care. So I've got a gold standard. I'm going to be talking about it on October 5th. You need a special invitation to get in. Just go to braveone.com/join workshop. It's braveone.com/join, JOIN WORKSHOP. And I'll give you the information. You'll get a special link to it, like a VIP pass. And you'll even get a free gift from me just from joining. Now, once you get that, I'll let you know you're in. But again, it's October 5th. Save the date. I'm doing it twice, 12 noon and 7 p.m. You can come once, you can come both times. Again, sexual betrayal, you have the right to say enough is enough. Now, if you found today's talk helpful, right? Share it. Tell someone about it. Tell them to go watch it on my YouTube channel, right? Dr. Sheri Keffer. Next Wednesday, September the 28th at 1 p.m., I'm going to be doing another talk, and this has to do with trust. I'm going to be talking about the difficulty we have with trusting others, and then the week two-part series, the difficulty we have with trusting ourselves and why. So the talk on Wednesday is called He Cheated. Can I ever trust him again? A lot of you have been asking this, and I want to help you figure out what to do and what you need to set up parameters around trust. So I am looking forward to seeing you all then. In the meantime, take care of yourself. Check out my YouTube channel. Get caught up if you haven't seen some of the talks I've done, and I will look forward to seeing you very, very soon.